What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just please make sure you keep those comments respectful. And look, if you're interested in supporting your favorite podcast, yours truly, the link to do so will be in the episode description. So yes, guys, typically these episodes air on Tuesdays, and I was planning on saving this episode for Tuesday, but man, I just had to get it out. As you can see, I'm still rocking my Alabama. Still woke up this morning with my crimson colored glasses on, coming off probably the worst loss in our team's history. Definitely as a number one seed or number one ranked team, losing to Vandy, and so shout out to them. They beat the piss out of us, to be quite honest with you, from uh, beginning of the game to the very end, when they were able to get the largest win in their program's history by far. And so, shout out to that team, well coached, well schemed, and they got the better of my Crimson Tide. And on a day or at a time where we really should be talking about what went wrong in terms of our defense not being able to stop a nosebleed, some critical turnovers. I had a pick six early, then a late fumble that extended the Commodores' lead against Alabama. Maybe some opportunities to try to utilize the run game a little bit more. Just just what was kind of going on within the game plan. We had an opportunity, I felt, to really talk about those things because those are the things that are going to help the team get better. That's going to help them not have disappointing losses and play the game to the best of their ability, and is going to have the coaches scheme things up and game plan to the best of their ability. But instead of us being able to talk about that, a lot of the talk has been about the waning minutes of that game where team captain, two-time team captain at that, fifth-year senior Malachi Moore just had a moment, had a moment where he was heated. Obviously, you lose a game that you feel like you shouldn't lose. Yes, you're on the road, but it pretty much was like a 75, 80% Alabama crowd. So essentially another home game. And you're pissed. You're upset. You're thinking about the blood, sweat, and tears you've given to this program and to this game for the past 5 years. This is your last shot to get your second national championship as a member of the Crimson Tide. And not that you think it's slipping away, but at that point in time, you're disgusted with yourself. You're disgusted with the guys in that locker room and how this moment could happen to you. And he showed out, through his mouthpiece, yelling and screaming, ends up kicking the ball, getting a bonehead 15-yard penalty. And that's what happens. And that ends up being the subject matter of all of the talking points for the past couple of days. Not about how we got out schemed, outplayed, outworked for 60 minutes, in which I believe Vandy had the ball 42 minutes of said 60 minutes. We're talking about a young man who has been a clear example of how to do things the right way. And I'll get into those things in a second. But a lot of people just decided to pile on and attack his character and attack Coach DeBoer's character to a degree in terms of how he handled the situation, which immediately post game, he said, look, you hate to see that, but you love, you want Malachi to use that um, emotion for a positive standpoint moving forward. And we've heard that before, just in a different way. But folks took time, again, after a tough loss, everybody's angry. They took the time to attack Malachi personally and to attack Coach DeBoer as well in terms of the type of culture that he's building now, that he's taken over the program. And I wish I could say things like this were happen or just happening just with Coach DeBoer taking over. But we've seen this over the past couple of years, especially Coach Saban's last year. And what pains me the most, look, I think media folks, I think fans like myself, there's going to be a level of overreaction. There's always going to be a little bit of holier than thou going on. But what has pained me over the past couple of years, man, is some Bama alumni taking the low moments of these guys' career, the Texas loss last year, and now this loss to Vandy, and obviously Malachi's reaction to the loss, and just taking an opportunity to bash the program, bash the players, and always give us some type of revisionist history of their time here. And the most recent uh, perpetrator of that was running back Damian Harris. You know, I'm two-time national champion, three-time SEC champion, uh, a decent back. Um, during his time here or during his time in Tuscaloosa. Obviously got drafted, played for the Patriots, had a stint there, and retired. Now he's in the media world, and he kind of goes on a rant of saying, "Hey, 13, I don't know who you are, and I don't really know you, and it's not meant to be disrespectful, but essentially saying, hey, you were showing your ass. Hey, the moment in this team is bigger than you. You don't act that way. If you were on my team, there are guys that would have stripped the C off your chest." And he name drops the Reuben Fosses of the world, the Minka Fitzpatricks of the world, the Jalen Hurts of the world. Notice he never name dropped his damn self. So that lets you know where he stood, or at least where he may believe he stood. But pointing out leaders that we know well as fans, and saying what they would and wouldn't have done to Malachi at that point in time, and then proceeds to say it's not a surprise that Malachi is acting this way because listen to Coach DeBoer's post-season or post-game comments, basically implying that Coach DeBoer has built a culture that allows these things to happen. It allows these things to happen unpunished, and then the kicker is to add the "this wouldn't happen under Coach Saban." Seems like that's the line, especially since January of this year, of people being ready to put the "but Saban." This wouldn't happen under Saban. Coach Saban would have handled it this way. And I will be the first to say I don't agree with what Malachi did. He was wrong. His teammates called him out for it and said, hey, that we know that's not his personality. He has to be better. He was immediately better once he stepped in that locker room. Tyler Booker, offensive guard, another leader on his team, talked about it. Hey, what he did on that field, it was gone in a heartbeat when he got to that locker room. He was able to calm himself down, be the leader they all know him to be, the guy that they're in the trenches with. So the guys that deal with him every single day, from players and teammates to staff members, they rectified it. They know who this kid is. So first off, you admit it, you don't know who he is. That is a problem in itself. Because if you want to be the alum and speak on the program, especially a program where the head coach has been extremely open with anyone who has ever worn the A on that helmet, to, hey, you can come here at any time. You can talk to our players at any time. Instead of taking that approach, you go on your platform, your media platform, and you decide to bash a young man who didn't have who didn't have an ideal moment. We can all agree. We can all agree with that. But I believe, like I said, I don't believe Damian was necessarily wrong in that, hey, Malachi, you aren't bigger than the program. You aren't bigger than your teammates. Don't show them up like that. But I will say that he and others over the past couple years have missed opportunities. They've missed opportunities to be empathetic, to understand that, hey, losing sucks. There's a way we have to behave ourselves in losing and winning, and it sucks. But what they end up doing is taking this hypocritical stance, acting as if they weren't once that age, acting as if they weren't once in that position. Because last time I checked, Coach Saban didn't win a championship. He didn't win an SEC championship every year he coached. So there were years that the brand, that the university, that the program did not meet its expectation to win SEC and national championships. And so you have a moment. in a program that has an open door policy for anyone, all alums. We just heard Coach Shepard, wide receiver coach, co-offensive coordinator say, hey, I told Julio Jones he can say whatever he wants to this wide. I won't interrupt. I won't say anything because he's earned that right. But I feel like we never hear the Julios, the Mark Ingrams, the Jalen Hurts, the Tua Tagovailoas, the AJ McCarrons. Hell, even Greg McElroy, who tries to play like he's Sweden in terms of trying to be neutral, even he doesn't typically take a stance of wanting to bash guys within the program. But we have guys who were on the team, contributed here and there, had some decent seasons, but nobody would ever claim that they were our star players. They're the ones that always want to take their pound of flesh with these young guys. And I just don't understand it. What do you get out of it? What do you get out of this? Like you feel like a big man because you get to talk down to a at this point a kid. He's still in college. Until you graduate college and you're out having a career, whatever that's in, and you have responsibilities and things like that, I'm gonna refer to you as a kid. That's just how I am right now. And so you take an opportunity on your platform to quote unquote flex on a kid. Oh, I can say what I'm saying because I'm a two-time national champion. I'm a three-time SEC champion. Well, I want you to know that Malachi Moore is a national champion and he's a three-time SEC champion. But if you want to talk about championships and what we do in those games, sir, I can remind you what you did in those two national championship games that we won. The first one, you didn't play. You didn't have a carry. You didn't have a reception. Hell, I don't even think you got a block in. Second one, you were so unproductive with your less than 3 yards per carry. We put a true freshman in Najee Harris in. And we ended up coming back and beating Georgia and winning a national championship in a thriller. So as far as I'm concerned, you were just a part of the team. We didn't lean on you to make that happen. And it's guys like that that always have the most to say. And it's been like that these past couple of years where guys just want to take their, like, just bash these young men as if, sorry, as if they're the only ones that haven't held to this Alabama standard. And if you guys recall last year after the Texas loss, I had an episode where I talked about that this standard that we talk about is a myth. It didn't exist. It's guys playing for their brothers. And as far as I'm concerned, the way these guys, these young men have rallied behind their brother and Malachi Moore, that still stands to this day. He's going to play for them. They're going to play for him. And hopefully we can run the table to a national championship. But somewhere down the line, you guys that have graduated and went on, you have missed the mark and forgot what it truly meant to be a part of this brotherhood. Because every chance you get, you want to bash your fellow brother. B-Side Phi is what they say. It's supposed to be a fraternity, a brotherhood for life. And I feel like guys always take this opportunity nowadays to talk about the good old days, what used to happen, what Coach Saban would do. Oh, Coach Saban or Jalen Hurts and all these guys, they'll rip the C off his chest. You mean Jalen Hurts, who I would say arguably is the best leader in all the sports, the guy who arguably has the worst moment in Alabama player history, where he got pulled in the national championship game and the guy that replaced him ends up winning, and the way he was able to remain humble and loving and supportive of everybody, especially Tua in that time, a guy that could have transferred after that and stayed in the program because he's just that type of leader, ends up getting you a SEC championship game victory when we're down against UGA. You mean to tell me that guy is going to take an opportunity instead of being empathetic to his brother and loving to his brother and putting his arms around him? You want me to believe that this guy is going to degrade his brother, lash out on his brother? Sounds like that's something you would do because you're doing it now. Is Jalen speaking about what's going on? No. Is Julio? Is Mark? No. It just happens to be you. And guys who were like you on the team that feel like this is their moment to show just how important we were to Bama too. We're the guys that don't get as much love. Let us say how great we were in upholding the Alabama standard. And what's worse is you give us this revisionist history about Coach Saban like we weren't fucking there. Oh, Coach Saban wouldn't allow this. He would have suspended him. He would have pulled him off the field. You mean the same Coach Saban that went on what felt like a 15-minute rant, but it was probably 3 to 5, talking about a player of his, Michigan State, where everybody wanted him to just suspend the player, remove him from the team. And he talks about how we didn't do that. We handled that internally. We talked to him internally because he was a great guy. We knew he was better than what was happening. And this guy ends up graduating, becoming an all-pro wide receiver. And Mushin Muhammad has a great family. His kids are doing great things. I remember his son being a big component, a big part of Texas A&M beating us a few years ago. And Moose Muhammad, we were supposed to forget that. Like, that's on record. The coach that you are trying to act had zero empathy and just would go scorch earth on a player having an isolated moment of immaturity from a young guy where immaturity is going to happen. A young kid, male or female, immaturity is going to happen. And yes, we know they have to be better. And yes, the coaches demand better. I'm sure Coach Saban demands better and demanded better, but to create this notion that he didn't have a heart, that he didn't understand that there were ways to get to guys, some guys differently than others, that's crazy, especially because it wasn't like it was a closed book, like it was closed off, and we never got a view into Saban's program during his time in Tuscaloosa. We see a guy in Makai Brown in a national championship game go crazy and get a crazy penalty, then gets on the sideline fighting his teammates. Guess what? Gets back in the game, makes a hell of a play in that game. He didn't get pulled. He didn't get told to go to the showers and sit your ass down. But since we want to talk about Coach Saban, something we can all remember is Coach Saban talking about rat poison. And I want to do a history lesson for you guys, especially some of you B-sci-fi guys that seem to forget, that have this revisionist history. Do you remember why Coach Saban used the terminology rat poison and exactly what he was referring to? I believe, I'm not mistaken, he was talking about all of these expectations that the media puts on his guys, good or bad. They end up not listening to the coaches, and what we're trying to do schematically, start listening to what the media members say and the media's perception of what the team is, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And they stop paying attention to the little things. And that is rat poison that can seep through your program. Do you remember that? Because I believe you were on that roster during this epic Saban rant. And you know what you've become, Damian Harris? You are the exact rat poison that Coach Saban is talking about. And guys like you that want to talk about this Alabama standard and what it needs to be, and these guys need to get it together. You are creating expectations and applying it to these guys, and instead of them being able to focus on what their coaches are trying to tell them, they're worrying about you. They're worrying about guys of the past that we need to make them feel good and that we're upholding their memory in the right way instead of attacking today the best of their ability. You are indeed, my friend, the rat poison. And look, it may come off as disrespectful given your career at Alabama, given what you've accomplished there, given what you've accomplished in the National Football League. But guess what? I'm always going to protect the kids no matter what. I don't care what you've done. Yeah, I didn't do shit. I didn't take a carry from Alabama. I didn't play a game. I didn't wear a jersey. This is about as close as I'll get to wearing Alabama gear. But guess what? I'm a human fucking being. And I understand that certain things you can handle in a different manner. Oh, I don't know 13. Well, how about you get to know him? How about you call Coach DeBoer and say, hey, coach, I saw what happened. I know that's not us. If there's a moment in time, I'd love to speak with Kai, if that's okay. And if they say no, then okay, I guess you can say, hey, I tried to talk to them. They didn't want to listen to me, whatever, blah. But I know good damn well you didn't take that approach. But what you did do is decide to get on a podcast, run your mouth about a program you're not in, you have access to, but you're not in, and be the very thing that Coach Saban tried to protect you from. The fucking audacity, the irony in it all, that this man has built a program, tried to protect and keep things insular. Even the tough love kept that insular when folks on the outside thought, hey, you got to cut that kid. Hey, you got to remove that kid. You got to suspend that kid. Kick that kid off of campus. When everybody on the outside had all this shit to say about Alabama football, this guy said, hey, that's rat poison, block out the noise. And to be in that locker room during this time and become the very thing that he tried to protect you from, you clearly weren't getting the message. I know guys like Mark Ingram got the message. I know guys like Julio Jones get the message. I know guys like Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones, AJ McCarron, Greg McElroy, Glenn Coffey, Trent Richardson. I know guys like that also shed blood, sweat, and tears in that program, led to some great success with some conference championships and some national championships. I feel that they listened and understood what Coach Saban was doing. And now that Coach DeBoer is trying to do the same thing, he doesn't have to tell you anything. It's not our program. Doesn't matter if you played there or not. It's not your program. It's Coach DeBoer and his staff and his players in that locker room. It's their program. It's their job to police each other. And as far as I'm concerned, they did a really damn good job. Q Robinson said, hey, he's a captain. That can't happen. He knows better. Tyler Booker, hey, that's my guy. We're standing behind him. He got in that locker room, admitted right then and there, hey, that was on me. I can't do that. I shouldn't be doing that. Coach DeBoer, hey, this guy from the moment he got in that locker room at the end of the game to this morning when he issues his apology, which he didn't have to do, which shows just how much of a grown-ass man he actually is. To own it, because he could have just said, hey, I talked to my teammates. I talked to my coaches about that. But he not only apologized to them, he apologized to the fans, his family, and people like you. The Bama alumni wanting to uphold this standard, well, what this program stands for. But the program doesn't stand for hypocrisy. The program doesn't mean that there weren't bad days, that there weren't moments of time where we lashed out and you got emotional. Coach Saban, the guy that you always want to act like it's revisionist history, remember what he would always say about emotion? Play with emotion, but don't be emotional. Coach DeBoer says the same thing in a different way, and you criticize him for it. All he said was, hey, we want Kai to use that from a positive standpoint. Use that emotion and do it for the good of the team. And you're acting like he's letting him get away with something because he said it a different way. It's the same fucking thing. And you guys have to stop. And y'all lucky I'm not running the program because you wouldn't be allowed any type of access. Because whatever you did in a Bama jersey does not give you license to criticize these kids the way you guys are doing. It's insane. It is insane. And in a moment, again, in a moment where you could have been empathetic and said, look, I get it. It's tough. You could have provided a level of motivation to these guys of saying, hey, what you're feeling now, that emotion you're feeling now, channel that. Talk about a moment where your team, a team you were a part of, didn't get it done. And trust me, I can name a few. Talk about that experience and how in those moments, that's when you galvanize as a brotherhood and you still have something to play for. Can we talk about that? But no, you decided to be big me. Talk about, oh, this is what I did when I'm been. That was the opportunity you took. And it's okay. I know you're not going to apologize to Makai or Malachi because that's your opinion. You're not going to apologize to Coach DeBoer. So when we do win this national championship, you're not going to be like, hey, I was wrong and yada, yada, yada. But it's all good. It's all good. But when these young cats don't want to talk with you, when they don't want to associate with you, you can't be upset because there are Alabama greats. Alabama greats, you were good, but there are Alabama greats that aren't behaving in this manner. They are realizing how to take L's with class. The same thing you're demanding of a guy like Malachi Moore, a young man like Malachi Moore, you as the adult in the room, you couldn't even handle it. You took the opportunity to bash him and bash his head coach. Is that not the kettle? Is that not the pot calling the kettle black? And again, it may come off as me being disrespectful, given what some of these alums have given to the program. But what I'm doing, and it ain't to be disrespectful, I'm comparing you to your peers during your time here and before that arguably one would say were the better players. And I don't hear from them. And that's how it should be, especially when there's an open door policy for anyone to come in and speak to these guys. But no, you want the clicks. You want to use the program now for clicks to boost your career. Like I said earlier, you're no different than the folks Coach Saban tried to protect you from. You are the rat poison. And guess what? Those guys in that locker room, they're not going to partake of it. Fans like me, we're not going to partake of it. But best believe we're in Atlanta hosting up that trophy, saying SEC champion. Best believe when these guys get their act together and go on a run, unforeseen, a dominant run at that, and host a national championship and coach the Boers' first season, we're going to remember this moment, Damian. We're going to remember this moment. And here's the thing. Those guys in that locker room, they're going to show you nothing but love. That's the sad part about it. They heard you. They probably accepted what you said. Probably didn't agree with it, but hey, we understand he's a guy that contributed. That's just his opinion. We gonna play our game. We gonna play for each other, and they gonna still show you love because in this moment, they're the bigger men. Think about that. Think about that. We're on to South Carolina this weekend. Anyways, that's it for the show today. Like I said, I wanted to do this tomorrow, but you know what? I didn't want this to last another 24 hours. I felt like Malachi issued his apology today. I felt like Coach DeBoer. I felt like Coach Womack. Um, they talked about just the whole experience. And here's the thing. One thing both coaches said was Malachi had their back. When Bama alumni like Damian were saying, hell, Coach Saban retired when I was here, I'm gone. Our alumni, guys that are on break, guys that are playing on Sundays, right? Marlon Humphrey saying, hell, shit, I would have left. I wouldn't have stayed. This guy in his last fucking year, make or break. If he pisses his pants this year, there's no NFL. A guy that was getting drawing Minka Fitzpatrick comparisons because he was just that great as a rookie. He was starting as a freshman. Fortunately, he had some injuries and all that stuff. But he's back. Two-time captain, fifth-year senior. Would you have stayed? Your last year. You don't get another one. Coach Saban leaves, retires. literally after you just committed to come back? Do you stay? Does that A on your helmet matter then? Or is it about self? One kid had a selfish moment but locked back in. The other took a moment. The adult took a moment to make it about himself and what he did and what he used to do and what he would have done. I think I get an idea of what you would have done too if Coach Saban had left during your last season as a member of the Crimson Tide. But I digress. Anyways, if there's anything that I've said that's offended anyone, it's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.